Hey guys, and welcome. Since the beginning of the universe of Halo and leading up to this point, we've come across a multitude of characters integral to the storyline which we've gone on to absolutely love, and some have gone on to be absolute fan favourites. For example, the Arbiter being one, Johnson, Captain Keyes, Shipmaster from Halo 2, Spartan Locke. I'm joking, please don't dislike the video. But there is one character that's gone under the radar massively. Well, there's a couple of characters, but one in particular. A Spartan so badass that he deserves to be up there in the same limelight as these other characters, in my opinion anyway. His name, Jerome-092. For those that have played Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2, you probably know who I'm talking about, but for those that might not have and that haven't really heard of Jerome or Red Team, I'd stick around for this video and watch along because Jerome might well be one of your favourite characters come the end of this video. But guys, before we do jump into today's video, I want to give a massive shout out to HaloVFX for allowing me to use some of the footage in this video. He essentially makes fan-made trailers or full-on short movies which involves Jerome. It's one of the coolest fan-made videos you will see today. And to be honest, if I didn't know that it wasn't a fan-made video, I would have thought that it was from 343 directly. So I would really recommend you go and check him out. All the links will be in the description down below to his YouTube channel, which has all of the details and all the videos on, and then of course all of his socials. But yeah, thank you very much HaloVFX for allowing me to use your footage. I really do appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into the biography of Jerome-092. Commander Jerome-092, better known as Jerome Cable as his full name, is a Spartan II soldier who fights alongside and within the UNSC Naval Command. In 2531, he served as the leader of Red Team and fought alongside the crew of the UNSC Spirit of Fire. Jerome is regarded as an inspirational and highly competent leader, and these traits were given to him by some of the highest regarded UNSC leaders. However, some aspects of his Spartan II training or conditioning are in conflict with his strategic instincts, one of those being his preference for direct action, rather than the quieter, more stealthier approach that he was trained to do. Like the other members of Red Team, Jerome-092 is equipped with a Mark IV Mjolnir armor. However, Jerome's armor is slightly different. It's embolized with red markings all across, and you may have seen this photo on Google and floating around the Halo universe, spanning from one side of his suit all the way up to his right shoulder. As badass as Jerome is, he loves close quarter combat. He loves getting into the thick of things and clearing enemies out quickly and efficiently as possible. To make sure he does that all the time, his go-to weapon is a combat shotgun, along with the Spartan laser to take out those vehicles if needed, along with a magnum as his typical sidearm in case it's needed. Jerome Cable was born on May 8th, 2511, to a poor family in the infamous Palaikos borderlands, an undeveloped portion of the human inner colony of Minister, a tough world that forced him into an early childhood of crime, where he almost realised his capacity for violence. He was of a genetic makeup that Dr. Catherine Halsey regarded as desirable for the Spartan II program, and after he was selected as a suitable candidate for the Spartan II program in 2517, he was abducted and sent to Reach for further training. This training would later be carried out by Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez. Although it's important to note that he actually initially attempted to escape from this training facility multiple times. However, later on, after much punishment, Jerome soon transformed from a self-centered survivalist to a competent leader, honing the speed and agility that kept him alive back on Minister. Jerome quickly proved himself to be one of the program's top candidates. Both Dr. Catherine Halsey and CPO Mendez identified him as one of the 4 emerging leaders of that group, along with Kurt-051, Frederick 104, and John 117, the Master Chief. So yeah, Jerome was a part of the same training group as the Master Chief, which is why their methods in combat and their thoughts behind their actions are very similar to one another, which is why he's such a fan favourite character. In 2525, he and the other candidates underwent a series of augmentations to improve their physicality and mental abilities. Jerome was in fact one of the numbers of washouts whose bodies initially rejected the augmentations. However, he was able to be retrained and re-augmented separately. But during the process, he was partnered with fellow augmentation washouts, Alice 130 and Douglas 042, to later go on to form the infamous Red Team from Halo Wars 1 and Halo Wars 2, with Jerome being team leader. Jerome was one of the main faces within Halo Wars 1 and 2, fighting alongside the members of Red Team against Atriox and his army in Halo Wars 2. The way he operates in combat, his dialogue and how badass he is seriously makes Jerome a really likable character. And with him training with the Chief and having the same trainer as the Chief, as I mentioned, their methods of combat are extremely similar, with of course the Master Chief being that 1 in a billion candidate. Jerome was not far behind. Within the Spartan II program, there was around 70 final candidates that were picked out of around a couple of hundred people, so if Jerome was in the top 4 with the Master Chief, it goes to show how good he actually is. Within Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2, Jerome was the leader of the Spartan Red Team during the Battle of Arcadia, and on February 9th, 2531, Jerome and the Red Team were tasked with stopping the Covenant long enough to evacuate the civilians off the planet. Afterwards, he and Red Team linked up with the forces from the UNSC Spirit of Fire and assisted in a counterattack on the Covenant outpost. Once the plan to infiltrate the large Covenant shield dome was passed down from Captain Cutter, he and Red Team remained with the crew to assist with the assignment. 6 years later, on January 1st, a flood outbreak was initiated on board the Spirit of Fire by a pod infected that had managed to remain hidden aboard the ship. As the flood threatened to breach quarantine, Serena awoke Jerome, who, within the aid of Professor Ellen Anders, was forced to exterminate all infected crew members, ensuring the survival of the Spirit of Fire and its remaining crew. After all traces of the flood parasite aboard the Spirit of Fire were erased, Jerome returned to cryosleep for a further 28 years. In 2559, again 28 years after drifting in space, the UNSC Spirit of Fire found its way to the orbit of the Forerunner Installation 00, better known as the Ark. Awakened from cryosleep, Jerome and the rest of Red Team were tasked with investigating a UNSC distress signal coming from the surface of the Ark. Inside was an abandoned UNSC outpost, which was where they encountered a logistics AI named Isabel, who warned the Spartans about a grave danger that was just around the corner. Quite literally. Jerome extracted Isabel and Red Team and continued investigating the outpost for this threat. They were soon ambushed by the brute warlord Atriox, whose power was too much for Jerome and the rest of the Spartan II as a part of Red Team. Atriox defeated the Spartans, severely wounding Doug by crushing his left shoulder so severely that he just couldn't walk and actually went on to pass out. Red Team was forced to retreat, and Atriox ordered his troops to hunt them down and capture them in order to learn where they came from and how they got onto the Ark. It was not long before the team was in a war hog and being pursued by ghosts, hundreds of them coming from the mountaintops ordered by the banished forces. In order to escape the pursuers, Jerome requested an orbital bombardment from the Spirit of Fire on their location at the time, and after this point, Jerome was an integral part of the story, helping UNSC Spirit of Fire fight against the Banished and give back what the Banished were throwing at them. With Serena putting herself through the final dispensation process at the beginning of Halo Wars 2, Isabel was an integral part in the process of the battle. If Jerome never recovered her, or even took charge when Atriox was overpowering the Red Team, who knows what could have happened. Jerome reminds me a lot of the Master Chief in Combat Evolved. The armor for one looks very similar to the Chief's armor at the very first game, but also he has that old school type of personality and mentality. When do we really ever see the Chief take the silent approach? And Jerome is the same. You get in, you get out, no matter what it takes. Just get the job done and get back. I think Jerome would massively suit being a part of a mainline Halo title, fighting alongside the Chief, or even just having a standalone Red Team DLC. There's a lot to flesh out within this group, and although Halo Wars does a pretty good job of introducing who they are to us and giving us a slight look at their overall personalities, a first-person gun-blazing DLC would make everything 10 times more awesome and just flesh them out that little bit more. A long but well-deserved overview for Jerome, but he seriously is a badass character, and his background and lore for Halo Wars and Halo Wars 2 just goes on to show this, from leading the Red Team to infiltrating the Enduring Conviction from Halo Wars 2 and completely destroying their flagship with Isabel, taking on 15 to 20 brutes single-handedly. However, could we ever see Jerome in Halo Infinite, and could we ever see him in a main game DLC? I mean, with 343, anything's possible, and I think the community know this by now, and judging by the general canon within the Halo franchise, 2 games, Halo 2 and Halo 5, had missions playable as characters other than the Chief, one being a lot more well received than the other, bearing in mind, but of course that's not my overall point. Within Halo 2, we were introduced to this perspective of 2 characters, and the same with Halo 5, both of them being a part of the UNSC as well, which again is making it even more likely. Spartan Locke and Fireteam Osiris were not the most well received characters in the world, so having a team like Red Team and really fleshing out their personalities, and for one, their Spartan IIs in the same training camp as the Master Chief, I think everyone is going to love that if that comes to Halo Infinite. Maybe having them reunite and having the Chief and Jerome have a little moment where they reminisce back on the day of training, and that would just be so cool, and it would really give that more personal touch to the Chief and Jerome as well, giving them that history, making that history known to the mainline games and to the canon of those mainline games, so that the people that are playing them for the first time understands the importance of the Chief and Jerome's relationship. You don't know, they could have been best friends back in the day, but we don't know. Again, stuff like this being fleshed out would be so cool. Like the Chief and Blue Team. The Blue Team are like the Chief's family, but what's their relation with Red Team? It seems they all trained at the same time, so why would they not be friends with each other? Why would they not have each other's back, you know? I think the Blue Team and the Red Team mixed together, a merger, would be so cool. There's a lot of potential and possibility there. Maybe in a DLC spin-off one time we can see Jerome and the Red Team come back and be a part of the main game storyline. I wouldn't typically class Halo Wars to be a main game compared to the likes of Halo 1, 2 and 3. It's just not the same. With it being an RTS type game, I think it could put a lot of people off from playing it. Don't get me wrong, the storyline in Halo Wars 2 is great, it's just the gameplay lacks a lot, and I think that could be one of the reasons why people don't necessarily give it the chance that it may deserve. Having a DLC playable as Jerome, infiltrating the flood-infested High Charity in 4K, wow, that would be so sick. Just not even that. Just learning more about these characters in game and listening to how they communicate with one another, their personalities, their stance on the war, and the factions they're fighting. That would be really cool for me as well, to have the lore around that. Halo Wars 1 and 2 did a great job at fleshing out the team, and obviously Jerome in particular, but I would love to see more from him. Red Team and the Spirit of Fire in particular as well. I think the character Jerome has huge potential, and I would, as I've said previously 3 or 4 times in this video, I would love to see more of Jerome in Halo, not just subject to Halo Wars 2. Bring the man into Halo Infinite. Now, if going back to my previous video around the Spirit of Fire and potentially that being in the game in DLC 1, if that is correct and Spartan Locke did help the Spirit of Fire somehow get a slipspace drive and get themselves to Zeta Halo at the time, potentially we could have Spartan Locke, the Chief, Jerome, Red Team, all in DLC 1. Imagine how sick that would be. Again, I think Spartan Locke deserves a bit of redemption. His character was terrible in Halo 5, but I'm hoping that maybe they can rewrite it a little bit, make him a little bit more badass in Halo Infinite's DLC, and I don't know, maybe people will come to like him more. But guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments. I would love to hear them. And again, a huge shout out to HaloVFX for allowing me to use his fan-made videos. They're absolutely incredible, and he really does need to do more of them. But yeah, make sure you guys go check out the socials and the links in the description down below. His YouTube channel has loads of videos of the process of making these videos and some behind the scenes work as well. So yeah, it's a really interesting to go and have a look. But yeah, guys, drop a like on the video if you did enjoy. Again, don't forget to subscribe and comment down below Don't forget to subscribe and comment down below who you want to see a backstory of next. There's loads of people in the canon of Halo that we could do these videos on, so if you guys are interested in anyone, then do let me know down below. But guys, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. We'll see you all soon.